We'll talk about this. Greetings, family. This is Baba Ahnk and Baba Kwabena with a Kemites view on the 17th of July, 2022. Very auspicious date and time. I like the seventh. And we're going to get into some numerology one of these days and discuss all these things and their celestial phenomena. But we're going to just give an African, a Kemetic view of what's going on in the world today, in African news and US news, and then we're going to just interpret it in the way that we think we should be looking at it. And then we're going to just go forward and hopefully enlighten you guys. And like, share, and subscribe below. Comment. We want to get better with this because it's important to be able to discern and read this news properly. So we're going to get started here. You got anything to say, brother Kwabena? You want to say hello? Or
just greet the people. And much gratitude for anybody who taps in, tunes in, and gets turned on to this.
All right, brother. Well, let's get going. First thing came up, it says that in Cameroon, the separatist leader was killed in southwest Cameroon. So I don't know if you guys have been paying attention or not, but in Cameroon, there's a rebellion in the southwest or next to Nigeria section of Cameroon, which is English speaking, and the eastern and southern part is primarily French. So I think Cameroon was originally a colony of, I think it was Germany. But anyway, after the war, they lost it. And, you know, during 1885, they had the scramble and they cut up Africa like a big pie. And the Germans had it, I believe. And then they lost it, but they combined the French and the English speaking areas. So even though they're all Africans from Cameroon, they're now fighting amongst language because the French section has more resources allocated to it than the English section. But they're different groups, and it's all a result of colonialism. That's the problem there.
That's the root. It's always rooted in colonialism, whatever's happened. Always.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we have to keep in mind when we see these things going on around the world, and in Africa in particular. Oh, it's so terrible what those Rwandans are doing, or in this case, what the Cameroonians are doing. They're fighting each other, killing each other, but we're not looking at the root cause. Yes, black on black crime. But it's colonialism.
It is. So, and even the black on black crime in the US is stemmed in colonialism. But we don't look at it. We don't take that objective approach and do the research to find out really what I'm looking at this on the surface. What's deeper here? What's deeper behind it? Because there's got to be a deeper issue, right? So
no, that's what it is. And I think Frantz Fanon spoke about this, that when the wretched of the earth or the colonized people, black skin, white mass, are put in this position, they will cannibalize each other to the point of even attacking each other because they're not attacking the ones who's actually enslaving and denying them their right as a human being. So it's kind of like this internal self-destruction that happens with people also with respect to if there is a, what is it? When you have a stress, a worry, and you don't express it. You've seen people, I've seen people who have a spouse, mate, whatever, somebody they're dealing with. And instead of addressing the problems that that person is causing them, they internalize it. They worry, they fret, whatever. Next thing you know, they're sick. And then if they're inclined medically, they go to the doctor, they start taking 1 pill, 5 pills, 20 pills to deal with their stress. And then they die. And instead of just telling this person, leave me alone, back up, that would solve everything. They go through this whole dynamic and die. And that's kind of like what's going on in colonialism. We don't want to call it what it is. And then that's part of their plan too. They don't want us, and when they report to us, they don't want to identify what their role is in our pathology.
Right.
All right. Anything else on Cameroon?
Nope, I hadn't followed any Cameroonian news lately. I've got good friends here who are Cameroonians, but they're actually, and it's an older couple, and they're getting ready to retire, but they're retiring to Ghana,
Ah,
even though they got 5 houses in Cameroon, but because of what's going on there, they don't want to be in Cameroon until something changes. And hopefully, it will change, um, because we do see we do see the African rising, and we see there's been a shift in the universe, and so some things are changing and things are turning, and so hopefully they'll get back to Cameroon and get to enjoy what they've already established there before they transition.
indeed, indeed, indeed. Going to South Africa, they're talking about the power company Eskom has been experiencing power cuts around the country, and they're
Load
saying that there's power cuts are going to end this week in South Africa.
I hope so. It's been horrible because I talk to Africa. I talk to South Africa every day, multiple times a day, and this power issue, I just don't understand why it's as bad as it is, because it hasn't always been this way. But they have a schedule when they shut things down, and if you don't know the schedule, then it screws up everything because you can't cook because there's no power if you don't have gas. You can't. I mean, a whole lot of things you can't do. You have no electricity if it's night. It's winter there right now.
Yeah, Southern Hemisphere. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like, my friend, he says it is so cold. He said I have to pile up all of these blankets to keep warm to sleep at night. Then if you miss the time frame when the power is going to be turned off, then you can't cook your food. Most continental Africans, they cook. They don't eat out as much as they cook in. You know, and they cook daily, and they don't store up. They like we do. We cook enough for 3 days so we can have some leftovers. But
Right.
For them, it's not that way. And so,
Right.
I mean, even for refrigeration, there is different
Yeah.
for storing stuff. So, but anyway.
Well, according to the article, some nuclear plants had been down on maintenance, and that they're supposed to come back online. So that's 920 megawatts, which is a whole shitload. That should be able to probably keep things flowing for a long time. So alternatively, so that's been the reason given for the power outages in South Africa, the maintenance on these nuclear power plants. Some argue alternatively that the problem is that we're running out of readily available cheap oil, because the entire economy is based on cheap oil, and oil is not cheap anymore. Nuclear power requires tremendous amounts of fossil fuels. You'll hear these clowns talking about, oh, we're just going to transition the economy to a green economy. We'll use nuclear, we'll use solar panels, we'll use windmills. That's just utter BS and a lack of understanding of the reality of the world that the bankers have chosen us to live in. It will not happen.
Yeah.
There needs to be a categorical change and shift in society. You can use these green energies and all this stuff, but we cannot live the way that we're currently living in this, technological, user-induced system of destruction of the planet to pay back bankers because of loans and debts, and the techno gadgetry and wizardry to make everything happen, like Tesla cars. Electric cars aren't going to save us. Windmills aren't going to save us. We're running out of cheap oil. We need to change the way we interact with the earth. And that's the problem. And that's what this is indicative of. But of course, they're going to name everything else without looking at the fundamental cause of the problem. But that's what we do here on the Kemites View. We look past the veil. We look down to the root and understand it, and we hopefully share it with you guys. Anything else, brother?
Yeah. No, I even in light of that situation, my thought is, why is this now a problem? why hasn't maintenance been done over an extended period of time so that there would not be what's happening right now? Because right now, what's happening, it's really bad. It's bad. I mean, it happens every day. It's not like, of course, it happens every day in Nigeria too, but it's different in Nigeria. In Nigeria, it's only usually it may be a half an hour that where they have these outages, lights out or whatever. But in South Africa, I mean, we talking 5 hours at a whop, twice a day. I mean, it's like, you know, and it's every day. So it just it's mind-boggling to me that they could let the system get that bad where, you know, and there's so many people who depend on it, but people have to suffer because there are people who can't afford gas. They can't afford to have gas to heat their place. And so it's like, you know, I don't know. It's again, it's even more. There's more to it, I think, than even with what we've just discussed and how they're handling the situation, because that's how governments are. That's how big bank does things to control people, to undermine, you know, decent humanity in society.
Right.
Yeah.
And make us suffer. One thing we know for sure, that they're lying. That's really
they're lying.
all we know for sure.
Right. And even as I build, you know, as I'm getting ready to start building my house in Cape Coast, I'm looking at all the alternatives. I'm doing my borehole for my water. I'm doing solar panels, and anything that I can do to be green and not live on the grid.
What are you going to do as far as HVAC and cooling? What are you going to build it out of?
So that's what we're currently going through. I've looked at a number of things. I've looked at earth housing. I've looked at
what is earth housing? Explain that.
So
for our fans, the audience, or whatever participants. What does that mean?
Made from dirt for the most part, made from mud.
The red stabilized clay. Earth.
Yeah.
Like concrete mixed with the laterite and make like concrete blocks and what?
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's cooler.
Right.
It's
warmer.
It's what's the term I'm looking for? It's natural. It's organic to a degree. So
how would you build it in terms of what way? In terms of, would it be a regular square? Would it be circular or what?
Probably square at this point. So I've got 3 different properties that I'll be building. So this particular one this will be the first one. It will be, I'm not really going to live there. It's going to be an Airbnb. And so I will have space it's going to be 3 levels. And I'll have space on the upper level that'll just be my space. So when I'm there, I'll have my own space. But it's not, it'll be more of a place for me to visit when I want to get away from wherever else I'm at. So I'm still exploring and looking at the different alternatives in how to build, and it'll be kind of an evolutionary process as I go from location to location. So,
well, being on Cape Coast, that's on the coast, I'm assuming you're going to get those trade breezes. So
yeah,
if you build it with pretty relatively high ceilings and ways for air to flow through it, cross breezes, hopefully it can be relatively cool. But one way that I've seen that works really well, you mentioned about building it out of the stabilized earth, which is going to give it a large thermal mass, which will mean that in the summer when it's hot, should be cooler during the day, and then at night it will re-radiate. In wintertime, it's going to be warmer. One other thing I was thinking about that there's an alternative to do, and that's like geothermal pumps. And that means not going down to the mantle or getting hot steam or steam to turn a turbine. Actually, just the idea of running water along, I think it's, I don't know what the frost line is, but at a certain level, depending on the location, the earth is a constant temperature and it's somewhere around, I think it's 60 something degrees. I know in Ohio where I was living at, the frost line is like 4 feet. So all the water lines, everything had to be at least 4 feet deep.
Okay.
And no matter how cold it got, it would never freeze to that level because the heat of the earth would keep it warm. Contrarily, during the summertime, still that temperature. So if you run water or some other working fluid through there to collect the temperature of that water, then you can then use that water to cool or heat your house. And it could be done relatively easy. You put a water treatment in, you got a, high upfront cost.
Right.
In the sense of digging this trench, laying this pipe in and all that. But after you've got it in, put a solar panel in, have a small pump, electric pump, move that water through the house and have your fans blowing it to heat it and then to cool it. And the fact that you have these large walls, they're going to be a shock absorber, or they're going to have a residence time such that you will always have the house cool and warm and be comfortable. So it could be relatively easy and cheap. And upfront, I would say that's what you want to do. That's just a thought. We can talk more offline about this, but I've been looking at this issue quite a bit.
I'd like to explore that offline. Yeah.
Okay, so Cape Coast, I would love to go there. I haven't been there yet. I'm going to go there next time. But we're going to move on to Guinea. And according to the headline, Guinea names a new acting prime minister. That's what they said in the headlines. And once again, we have to read beyond that because I always go down the article and I understand what's going on. Well, guess what? Guinea had a coup also. In other words, where the military removed the corrupt prime minister.
Yeah.
And the military now is saying, hey, we're going to put a new prime minister in and you run the show. He was some other part of the government, but I guess he's trustworthy.
So here again, another black eye for France. Another black eye for France.
Right.
Oh, they're not happy. I know they're not happy.
Well, also, they do not, bankers and their minions, the European powers, because they're nothing but got hand up their asses making their mouth move. That's all the governments are. They're just puppets. But the French, they feel like they got some special right to Africa and want to run it the way they want to. But the military and the people are pissed. So we have to look at the language and we have to look at that. The military, because of the corruption, took power because of the democracy that the French had put in. And I think we're going to have to get to the point that we have to really investigate this idea of democracy or democratic process for African people. Now, I'm not saying we have to go, I'm not sure the alternative, but as we spoke before, I think an enlightened monarchy is where we need to be headed towards. Because just listen to what this guy said. The Mamadi Doumbia, which is an interesting name. Mamadi is a derivation of Mohammed. So, in the African language, they Africanized the Muslim pronunciation. So instead of Mohammed, they say Mamadi. And Doumbia is the name of the jellies, or some people call them caste people. They're actually musicians. Some people say griots. But that's what the jellies are in their language, at least in Malinke. The performers belong to the jelly class, so the griot class. So I think he said that Mr. Doumbia, he wanted to impose justice back on the land. So his innate ability or his innate desire is ma'at, balance. He wants to impose justice on the land. At first, you don't want that. And once again, that's the problem of democracy, because when you have democracy, what do you have? You have some actor who goes up in there for 4 years, 2 years, whatever, with a goal to self-enrich and not impose justice on the land. That's the problem.
Yeah. This is good news, though. This is good to have another country, a francophone country, to fall in line with Mali, Burkina Faso, and
Right.
those folks. So this is good.
No, it's fantastic. My thing is
Good.
this though. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, I was done.
Well, I think like we spoke again. I think I like the idea of the military junta being there, or the junta. I don't like that. The military council serving as a basically a body to oversee
Oversight.
the oversight body for the proper governance of the country. I think in Iran they have something similar. They have the Ayatollah, which is the supreme leader, but then beneath him, he appoints the president, or the president is voted in, and they have a body. But he's basically like a king in a sense. He's got the final check, and he supposedly is led by, his religious convictions, whatever. Uh, but I like that idea, and I think that model works better in Africa than having bankers in that role, because that's what we have here in the U.S. Right? We have a supreme leader, or a supreme cabal of leaders running the show, the oligarchy, as we call them, and they appoint or cause to be appointed the president, the congressman, the judges. They have a say in that to a certain degree, and we don't acknowledge it. And I think we have to get back to some type of, I think, enlightened monarchy for African people. That has been the time when we have been the most powerful on the planet, not democracy. All right. Ready to move on, bro?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're going to go from Guinea over to Sudan. And let's just briefly discuss Sudan. Sudan is north and south. It colonized again, and there was never a country called Sudan prior to the British imposing their will on the people. And they had a lot of different groups put together, and here recently they split. You remember the South Sudan and Sudan having the elections. Of course, they found a bunch of oil in South Sudan.
Right.
So
Right.
they needed to break it away because the president, or the leader, was Bashir. He was hated Muslim fundamentalist, black man, of course, but he considered himself Arab, which that's his choice. We got people here who are Hebrew Israelites and we're copper-colored folks, so there's confusion enough to go around to Africa too. But anyway, this guy, they split the country up, and in the south with the oil, that's South Sudan. In the north, they're having tribal clashes in the Blue Nile state because of land disputes. This is once again a product of colonialism, and it said it's between the Berti and Hausa tribes, and they spelled it Hawsa. And I wonder how or if these people are connected to the Hausa in northern Nigeria. I'm sure they are.
And probably are. They're also housing in Ghana.
Right.
There's some housing. So, but they're most likely all connected.
I think one thing we have to keep in mind as African people also is the frivolousness of spelling a language. And the reason why I say that, here in the US, because of the precision required for commercial operations, and US is primarily based upon commercial development by the hattery and the bankers and whatnot to make as much money as possible, which requires accounting and very exact detailing of every little thing. A lot of emphasis is put on spelling. So someone like may spell their name Tracy, Tracie. Another person will spell their name Tracey. Another person will spell their name Traci. And in their minds, those are different traces. But in spoken word, it's the same. Tracy is Tracy is Tracy. The way you spell it doesn't change what it is. But we, as American people, are taught to think that it is different. Which leads to confusion. It's not different. So I said all that to say, they spell in Hausa Hawsa, and then in Nigeria they spell it Hausa, I think.
Mm-hmm.
but there's no difference.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming it's the same people. I bet it's the same people, but we will make a big difference out of nothing, and we got to get beyond that, especially in
Right.
Africa.
Right.
Like
Right.
Dumbia. Dumbia is spelled Doumbia in French Africa, but in English Africa, same people, same families. It's spelled Doum or Dombya. So it's
Mm.
just a function of, or the Biya, but it's a function of English spelling versus French spelling, but it's the same family. So we got, once again, back to this colonial stuff. This is all because of the colonialism, the confusion break about the Yewa. That's what what's his name? Fella said
Mm.
confusion break your body. Yewa. I love Fela, man. He's a bad dude. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
what's going on in Sudan.
Okay.
And it's
Okay.
interesting. We're gonna jump back over to West Africa to Bamako and Mali. They're talking about 70 kilometers or 40 miles away from the capital city. There was an attack on a near Segu, which is getting on towards the east. There was an attack at a military checkpoint on the roads. And they're trying to say, oh, look at this. They're Muslim fundamentalists coming into Mali. They're causing problems. Ooh,
Mm.
be scared, folks. Be scared. And my question is just, who benefits from this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think they should possibly look at the model in Venezuela. And in Venezuela, Chavez and later Maduro instituted a program where they had basically militias, armed citizenry throughout the country.
Mm.
So they would give guns and military training and the like to all the Chavistas in Venezuela. So what does that do? Well, it prevents an invasion by the
Mm.
US or anyone else, because you've got millions of armed people, women and men, who are there ready to defend their country.
Mm.
A year or so ago, when the British or the Americans tried to send in this military force, supposedly some mercenaries, to take over the government and do a coup, they came in on a boat, 40 or 70, I can't remember the number exactly. But as they were trying to sneak into Venezuela, some fishermen saw them. So the fishermen went back home, got their guns, came out, they started having a shootout. Now, of course, they done told everybody. And so now the military is involved. These guys
Mm.
got caught and got their asses handed to them. They got stomped out.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so this whole coup thing in Venezuela was stillborn, kind of like what happened in Cuba during the Bay of Pigs. They got stomped out by the Venezuelan people, by the Cuban people. So I think the idea is to arm the people, man. Even though the nut grabbers here, I say, oh, gotta get rid of the guns. Gotta get
Right.
rid of guns.
Right. 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 But though they're saying that here, they're not going to get rid of guns. It makes too much money. It benefits too many political figures. You know? So, but the thing about, difference though in Africa too with guns is that that's where the Russians would have to come into play, because Europe is not going to provide guns to Africa, because that would give them the liberty to stand up for themselves, right? The West is not going to provide guns to Africa, but the Russians will. I mean, the Russians already is providing guns for some parts of Africa. So, and then you have to change the mindset of the people too, because people are they don't see really the benefit of having guns on on the continent in most areas. I know, I'm speaking from a Ghanaian perspective. They don't see a need that anybody would need to have a gun, but there is a need. There is a need, right?
There's a need.
So have to change the mindset of people to be accepting.
I think it's just it's a matter of education. Then you have this UN agenda with this 2030 depopulation scheme. They brainwashed the people to think that, first of all, the UN is good, and second of all, that You don't need guns. Whereas traditionally, there's always been people with guns and blacksmiths, particularly the hunters, depending on where they are, and they would
Yeah.
make their own guns. And I think we have to get back to making our own arms. That's what allowed Russia to neutralize the West. They became militarily, basically, they surpassed the West, the U.S. and Western Europe. They're lapdogs in armaments. So their weapons are superior to the Americans.
Mhm.
Whereas previously, America's big, brutes that if you don't do what we say, because we got this little banker on our back telling us how to run, we're gonna beat your country, Hulk smash, US smash, you
Right.
know, this country, because they don't want to get raped anymore by the bankers. So, we'll send in the military, the Gollum, the Hulk, and smash them up for the bankers. But
Mhm.
Russia's got, something to counteract that banker, or that Hulk or that Gollum. And so that's what got the people pissed. But to make a long story short, here in I think we were talking about Bamako, right? I'm kind of going to feel we were on we were in talking about the attack in Bamako, or we had moved to Senegal. No, we hadn't moved to Senegal.
No, we hadn't moved to Senegal yet. So
No,
Bamako.
no. Okay, so make a long story short, arm the people in Mali and West Africa in general, built their own arm. They need to build their own arms, and just educate the people and impose justice and truth, because they had plenty of money, plenty of resources.
Mhm,
Anyway,
mhm.
we'll move on to Senegal. Kind of got a little twisted on that one. Okay,
No,
Senegal.
it's
Protests
all
poke
good.
holes. Huh? I'm
I
sorry.
said it's all good.
Yeah, yeah. In Senegal, protests poke holes in long-standing image of stability. Well, guess who's the president of Senegal? This guy named Macky Sall, who is also the head of the African Union. And guess
Uh,
what he did a month or so back? What did he do, brother Carvin? You want to pick that up?
I don't know what he did.
No,
I
Carvin.
probably,
No,
I probably,
Russia. Remember, Macky Sall went to
oh, was
Russia,
trying to rally uh, African nations for
right?
to
With Russia,
with,
with the
with
food, and
I
he
thought with
met,
with the
huh?
Ukraine, not with Russia. Was he
No, no. Well, there was two different things. Macky Sall's
okay?
over the AU right now, but Macky Sall went and met with Putin as a representative of the AU. So basically, to say, hey, you know what, we ain't in this with y'all, U.S. and Russia. That's y'all stuff.
Mm,
Y'all fight in Ukraine, fine, but we West, keep us out of y'all mess.
okay.
Uh,
I didn't realize that he had gone to Russia and had that conversation because I know that he's his faithfulness to Africa is questionable, right?
well, I think in a sense, yes, I agree. But I think he was looking at it more from the point of view of food security, and
Okay,
also an alternative to the West America and U.S. and France and the like. And so he's trying kind of playing both ends against the middle, which a politician has to do. But the fact that he went and met with the Russians, to me, I think
that's
uh,
huge.
is
That's
huge.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think it's the reason why now they're looking to precipitate a color revolution in Senegal to get rid of this
Mm,
guy. That's how they punish him. That's how Soros punishes people.
mm,
And we can't read this as Senegal protests without looking from the point of view of a color revolution, who benefits and why, instead of just saying, oh, they're just angry. Now, of course, they're angry there, and there's a lot of this, it's an unequal treatment because of the disparity in money and wealth and all this other stuff. But why the protests right now? That's my point. What's the reason
mm.
for the protest right now?
Yeah, yeah. Interesting.
So anyway, that's what's going on in Senegal. Uh, then I saw here in Madagascar, we're going to jump down to Madagascar, and I think that's our last place in Africa. Yes, it is. The article was living on the verge of the world's first climate-induced famine. There's a CO2, there's a drought going on in Madagascar, which is really curious as to a country that is basically surrounded by water is going to have a drought. How come this water that's all around there is not evaporating out? You're talking about a warm place too, being evaporated and then coming onto the land to deposit the rainwater. Something else is going on. And they're talking about because they're saying CO2 is the problem. It's always CO2, greenhouse gas. Even though it's a greenhouse gas, partly because it's pumped into greenhouses to make the plants grow better. So that right there, CO2 is plant food. Why is that a problem? Feeding plants. They tell us that it's going to cause a problem, but does it really? When these people lie just as quick as you look at them.
Right.
Something else is going on, and the elephant in the room, in my view, there's two things. One is the sun, but I think the most important thing is this thing called geoengineering, which is climate manipulation and caused by these planes spraying all these toxins out into the sky to control the wind patterns and thus control the range in the food. That's what's going on right now because there's a global depopulation agenda in effect. Anything, brother, you want to add?
No, I'm good.
But anyway, that's Madagascar. All right, we're going to jump back over here to look at the US and Europe. I saw an article that said that the EU population declines for the second straight year. What's going on, Europe?
Yeah.
Y'all not banging booties enough? Second straight year, your population decline. Y'all ain't making no babies. I bet the Muslims are. I bet the Africans are.
Oh yeah. They're making lots of babies.
Yeah, but then you got to go to the effect of what effect does this I guess unicorn ride. When I say unicorn, I'm talking about, of course, the COVID-19. I call it the unicorn because it's just as believable as unicorns in my view. But anyway, what effect does having those unicorn shots on people's fertility?
Yeah.
What role does that play? Did it really protect you, or did it just basically neuter you? Now you're a eunuch,
right?
Because of your choice in taking the shots.
Yeah.
You're a eunuch, and you won't make no more babies no more, or you gonna make some little creatures that look like who knows what.
Right.
That's what some people are saying. I don't know, but I think some of that's going on.
And there's also a decline. There's also a decline in the U.S. as well, but it's white people.
Well, you got Negroes too who are taking these shots, who taking the unicorn ride, and they doing it too.
That's very true. Very true.
Yes, indeed, man. You taking these shots, these young girls that's gonna come out, they gonna stop having these babies because that thing's gonna shut down their ovaries and all that stuff. So that's why I hate that. My son was dating this one girl. I said, "Then you gotta stop dating her, man." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because she took the unicorn ride, man. She got the juice, injected. So you can't stay with her, man." I guess I shouldn't have been interfering. But I'm like, "Why you want to deal with it? Her blood is poison, man. She don't have pure blood no more. You're pure blood. She ain't. She got the juice." Anyway,
what was his response?
Yeah, I see your point, but I'm gonna still get with her because she's fine. And she was fine. It's fine, pretty girl. I'm like, all right, just protect yourself, son. I understand. We gotta do what we gotta do. And to be honest, I don't know if my choice would have been different if I was placed in the same situation. Given his age, he's 21 or 20, so hey, what's the most important thing? She fine and she available. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay, another note in Europe. I want to get through this here. Dutch dairy farmers face having to cull 95% of his cows And the reason why they're saying that is because they're producing too much nitrogen. Utterly ridiculous, just
What?
dumb. Yes, they're saying that they're producing too much nitrogen, so therefore they have to cull their crops. And the farmers in Holland and other parts of Europe are protesting, man, because these pronouncements from the EU government are just utterly ridiculous, man. It's a depopulation scheme going on.
Yeah.
So they're trying to find any reason to justify it, and people don't know it. They listen to these talking heads, but nitrogen is 78% of the air we breathe. Oxygen, somewhere around 20, 21%. So this is clearly a depopulation scheme going on. But anyway, they're pissed and they're not going to take it. They're fighting back. They're looking for energy alternatives, and they're desperate for energy alternatives. Well, you have to change categorically, as we spoke earlier about. This is a headline that Europe is desperate for energy alternatives, because instead of buying cheap Russian oil, gas and oil that comes right from around the way, they're got them under sanctions. And as a result, they can't get the gas and the oil from Russia cheaply like they had before. So
Right.
they're still getting it, because if they didn't get the oil, their societies will collapse. In the gas, they're just paying a lot more for it. Now it's going to a middleman, and then he's selling it back to them. They're not telling you that because of this sanction foolishness. It's crazy.
Oh, right.
So another headline here said Europe pours billions into hydrogen. What's your thoughts on hydrogen fuel?
I really don't know that much about it.
Well, from my view, I've looked at this a little bit here, but hydrogen functions more as a battery than as a fuel. It's not like you're going to go dig a well and find a bunch of hydrogen sitting down there. Hydrogen is something that needs to be produced, and it can be made in a variety of ways. You can use some chemical reactions with some products that are higher in hydrogen that release the hydrogen, and then that can be collected and made a fuel. Alternatively, you could use solar power or whatever to do what do they call it? Hydrolysis, electric hydrolysis, where they separate the hydrogen and oxygen from the water molecule and collect, the oxygen and the hydrogen. That's another way. But the problem is that the energy density is very low. You have to compress it really crazily. And if you look at the energy return or energy invested by using any of these processes to produce hydrogen, you're not going to break even. In other words, it's going to require more energy to produce the hydrogen for fuel than it would be to just burn the fuel itself. So it's a waste, and it's not going to work, because it's basically saying that, you had an economy of everybody washing their clothes. I want to make money off you, so I'm gonna wash your clothes. So you go to the next guy and they wash your clothes, and everyone's washing each other's clothes in a circle jerk, and there's no money being created. Previously, when they went into these fields, oil in the U.S., particularly here in Texas, I forget the name of that field. The Black Snake, was it? But anyway, over here in Beaumont, they went down there and got that oil out of the ground. And for every barrel of oil worth of energy that they used to get oil, they would get back 100, 150, spindle top, I think it's called, 100 to 150 barrels. So that was a rate of return of 150 to 1. Hydrogen is 1 to 1. You can't run the economy on 1 to 1. You need an X surplus.
Okay.
So if you understand what I'm saying, this hydrogen stuff is ridiculous. It's not going to work. The whole green energy thing is not going to work. We're not going to run our economy on green energy. It's just not going to work. It's not going to happen. I don't care how many Teslas you get, whatever. It's not going to work.
But again,
Planet of the Humans. Planet of the Humans. Go ahead.
Back to the bag, right? It's all about the bag.
It's all about the bag. It's all about the paper. It's all about the
Mhm.
Benjamins, whatever you want to say.
Right, right. And they'll tell people anything as long as they get the bag.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why we're trying to educate people. Go see Planet of the Humans. That is a excellent movie for understanding the green revolution or environmental revolution and the folly that it is.
Mhm.
Okay. Another thing I want to talk to you about, which I find interesting, it said education in Africa, girls are gaining ground on boys. What do you think about that in this
It,
first 5 seconds? In Africa, they're saying this article is saying that girls are getting more educated than boys. And I look at it from the point of view of the US as a test lab and what's going on here and what they're trying to implement in Africa overall now.
mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Um, I guess I don't have enough insight.
Well, that's all right. Let me talk about it a little bit. Uh, basically, my thought is this. I think women should be educated, of course.
Of course.
But here in the US, a lot of the men aren't being educated. So we have this disparity of men and women because we have so many educated women and so many uneducated men. But
Mhm.
that's a double-edged sword because are the women educated or are they miseducated? So therefore confused about what's really going on. We think because we got it from massa, we are all right. Brother Kwabena. Brother Kwabena.
And I would and ask, can you hear me? Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
go ahead.
Okay. No, I was going to say, it's and it's the in my mind, it's the latter, right? Because again, what's being taught is not accurate, but yet we accept it and keep it moving. Um, I think that males and females should be separated and not taught together because they learn differently. And so um, that masculine energy is it's the opposite of the feminine. So, but we keep trying to put the two together in the same space for educational purposes, and I think that has an impact on how both either male or females learn, right?
Yeah, I agree. So I'm thinking that they're trying to do the same confusion sowing in Africa that they're doing in the US, as the US is the test lab, and they see how they have successfully got black men and black women fighting each other over foolishness. They're trying the same thing in Africa. Hopefully, it won't work. I think the people wake up, and I think people are waking up here. I think sisters are understanding that they're being mind controlled, even though their Roe v. Wade thing and this abortion thing runs deep in a lot of sisters who follow this foolishness of feminism. It's
Mm-hmm.
utterly ridiculous because they don't understand its history. They don't understand the reason why it's there. They're just like basically acolytes at Reverend Leroy's Chicken Foot Church.
Right.
They go there every Sunday, they pay their tithes, they don't understand the Bible, they don't understand anything, but Reverend Leroy said it's okay. So they're gonna follow and do what he say.
Right.
And that's what
Right.
they do now with their white masters, CIA generated Gloria Steinem and feminist movement that got our women confused. And the reason why is because they know that the black woman gives birth to who? Heru. And who is Heru? The savior.
Yes.
They
Yes.
don't
Yes.
want the black woman to give
Produced this,
birth to the
these
savior.
black gods. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. The woman is the one who gives birth to the God that saves us all. But if she's aborting them,
Mm-hmm.
he never gets a chance to check in. But guess what? Just like the Bible and the story in the Bible, one of them gets through. But I think it's a new day. I think we're going to have a whole bunch of Herus coming through this time.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
scared
Yeah.
shitless. They
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
whether this shit'll go blind. But anyway, moving
And
on.
and they have
Give us
some sense. They have some sense that people are waking up. I
right.
mean, the telltale signs. Now they're not waking up probably in the rate that we would like to see people waking up, but nonetheless, they are waking up.
Right. Okay. one final thing here, and then we're going to just kind of close it off. They're saying that they're having significant defaults on a lot of countries, and there's a big default risk in the top 5, which is El Salvador, Ghana, Tunisia, Pakistan, and Egypt. But let's talk about this thing of default. What does that mean? A country defaults, and that's the debt to percentage
So
of GDP, debt to GDP ratio. What does that mean in your mind?
default more than they can pay back, than they can handle paying back in the agreed amount of time.
That's what they're saying. They're saying they're going to default. Go ahead, bro.
No, I mean that's and I must have read about this over the last couple of weeks. But if again, it's all a part of the plan to keep them bound to that system so that they can be exploited in the ways that they're being exploited. Because if they default, things are taken from that country that the people need, because it's for that country. Right. And so, of course, the leaders, the puppet leaders, they fall in line and they keep doing what they're doing to allow these kinds of things to occur, instead of making these decisions to unite and stand against the colonialists as they are. But they've allowed them to come in and set up their military operations within those countries, within the borders. And so until people rise up like the Guineas, like the Malis, like the Burkina Faso, and unite and do some pushback, we won't really see any real effects of change in that area. Africa has more than enough resources to handle its own business without borrowing anything from anybody.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, that was my thought. I mean, the whole concept of being default on debt is ludicrous and ridiculous. You've got the resources. It's only because you're playing this paper game and allowing them to dictate the coupons you're going to use to deal with your own natural resources that you're in this trick bag.
Right.
You've got natural resources. Why are you letting somebody tell you how to run it? But no, we let them run the money, and we say we don't have money. And we got to think of it, money, more like Monopoly. It's a game. It's these paper checks. But you got the real stuff. You've got the resources, but they fall in, like you said, the puppets. And like I said, the number 2 is Ghana, which is ridiculous. But check this out. Out of the top 5, 3 are African: Egypt, Tunisia, Ghana. 1 is South America, Central, whatever. I call it South. If it's South of Mexico or South America. El Salvador. Then the other one is Pakistan. All suspect states. And out of the top 20, 12 out of the top 20 of these countries threatening default are African, and 5 of the top 20 are South American. Would you think, or would you question whether they had significant resources or not?
Right.
Convenient.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's all about usury and riba, and this usury game, and this money and this paper and this debt to get the real stuff. They play the game with the paper to get the real, actual resources. So anyway, brother, I think we're coming up on an hour. We might be a little bit over. But any last words before we shut this down?
It's once again, this has been enlightening. It's been refreshing. It's good to have the dialogue. There are times that some of our content I'm not so familiar with, and so this is good because it gives me a baseline to go back and do some further research to find out more. So I really appreciate that.
Well, I need to also get better in terms of picking up information and giving it to you maybe earlier so you can get a chance to review it prior to this. But I kind of also like the spontaneity of giving you information just to get your response, and I
Yeah,
think it's good on both ways, and you can speak to it just because you know you've been there, you can understand, and you can make the snap uh, analysis at that point. So I'm kind of torn.
I'm not, and yeah, I don't think that I don't have to necessarily have the information in advance. It is good how we flow. It's I, what so I didn't so I hope it didn't sound like I need to be more. You need to more prepare me. No, I'm not saying that at all. How it's flowing is how it's flowing, and it's all good. Uh, and we're engaging and we're learning, and that's what
Right.
that's the bottom line. Yeah.
Well, all right, brother, I'm gonna shut it down, and I want to tell our family out there in the virtual world on the internet, thank you. We have love and gratitude for you. I'm glad you tuned in. If you like it, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any comments, please put them below. We'll discuss it. With that, we're going to close it out. Any last words, Brother Kwabena?
Peace and hair grease.
All right, man. All right, family. Love and gratitude.
All right.